There is a lot of anger and finger-pointing over which side causes more political violence. Do studies even help? If not used correctly, they can make things even worse. Political violence, left or right? Welcome to Into the Desert, exploring the wilderness of ideas. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And if you want to support our channel and our mission of encouraging discussion, not division, please join us on Patreon. The link is in the description. There is clearly the perception that political violence is on the rise. Where it used to be rare, hardly a week goes by without an incident, often several, of political violence. The assassination of Charlie Kirk is the most obvious. Still, other incidents, such as school shootings and attacks on ICE agents, make it seem like the source is the left. A recently released study from the Center for Strategic and International Studies on the actual data instead of the hype holds some promise for answering the question. However, the study also reveals the benefits and problems of such studies. To see the problem, just consider that MSNBC reporting on the story claimed it showed right-wing violence was far greater. Meanwhile, the New York Post, reporting on the same study, claims left-wing terror attacks reach record highs in 2025. Which is right? Based on the study, they both are. From 1994 to 2024, violence from the right exceeded violence from the left. However, since Trump's election, violence on the left has increased, while it has fallen on the right. This highlights the first big issue with studies: time frame. According to the study, most political violence came from the right from 1994 to 2024. That changed in 2025, and currently, most comes from the left. This change is evident in another graph in the report showing the marked increase on the left. Note how the increase in 2025 is over twice as high as in any previous year going back to 1994. This graph also reveals another issue with such studies. Note the title of the graph: Left-Wing Terror Attacks and Plots as a Percentage of All Attacks and Plots. There is a mismatch between the subject of the study and the current question about left-wing and right-wing violence. This study is about terrorism. This is perfectly fine. The researchers chose something to study and did so. Yet, this has two implications for the current debate. First, they included things in the study that, while relevant to their research, are irrelevant to the question of left-wing versus right-wing, as the study not only has left and right, but also includes jihadists, ethno-nationalists, and other as categories. Thus, while the graph on percentages showed the left having over 40% of the attacks and plots, it would have been over 80% if it had only had the left and right. A second and related mismatch is the issue of terrorism itself. Again, perfectly fine as a research topic, but it is a mismatch to the current discussion of violence, and one that the authors of the study noted. In an appendix, the authors discussed what was excluded.
This analysis excludes a number of incidents that further contribute to the perception of an increase in left-wing violent activity in 2025. Different definitions and coding might legitimately include these, but the explanation below details why they are excluded from this data set.
As an example, the authors point out that their findings exclude the series of attacks against Tesla vehicles and facilities. A third issue stems from definitions in general. What counts as right or left wing? Much of the study relies on a view of right wing, which our series on the political spectrum shows is, at best, problematic. Still, there is the issue of how to categorize certain events. For example, many consider the attack on Governor Shapiro's house, the assassination of 2 Israeli embassy staffers, and the attack on a pro-Israeli walk in Boulder, Colorado, to be examples of left-wing violence. Yet, despite having
attackers motivated by opposition to Israel's actions in Gaza or U.S. support for Israel, a political position traditionally, though not always, associated with left-wing politics in the United States,
the study puts these into the category of ethno-nationalists. This was also an issue for the violence stemming from immigration and custom enforcement activities. The study's authors noted these incidents did not reach a level of violence that satisfied this study's definition of terrorism. None of these problems is fatal to the study. Issues of time frame, methodology, and definitions exist with all studies. They are always important considerations when addressing questions that are not precisely the same as the research question. Overall, the results of the study are pretty straightforward. Here are 5 key points. First, 1994 to 2024, more violence came from the right than the left. Second, this year, violence on the right drastically dropped, while on the left, it increased. Third, considering just left and right, left is currently responsible for 80% of the total. Fourth, the study did not count the attack on Governor Shapiro's house, the murder of Israeli embassy staffers, the attack on a pro-Israeli rally in Boulder, Colorado, the attacks on Tesla and Tesla dealers, and the violence surrounding ICE enforcement in their category of left or right violence. Fifth, the study was done before the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Thus, this study shows that even with these constraints, the current round of political violence is mainly from the left. Still, the solution to the violence on both sides is the same and boils down to 2 things. First, tone down the rhetoric by stopping demonizing those who disagree. Second, discuss issues with the aim of building consensus rather than defeating the other side. The second is the hardest, but it is the most needed. The more one sees the other side as people, the less likely violence becomes. So what do you think? Do you think the violence on the left is just a statistical blip or a current trend? Do you have ideas to help reduce the violence from both sides? Tell us down in the comments. We do read your comments and often post replies. If you made it this far in the video, consider watching one of our other videos and supporting our channel on Patreon. Thank you for watching Into the Desert, exploring the wilderness of ideas.